Hi, so I am sitting outside in this glorious winter sunshine. It's an amazing day here in North Coast, KwaZulu-Natal. I still, being a Cape Town girl, can't understand how this is actually called winter. But yeah, it's a really beautiful day. And so as you'll have seen, the title of this is Screen Time and Snacks. Now, I am in no way here to judge you and make you feel guilty about screen time, because goodness knows we all have enough of that. But I do want to share something with you which I have found quite interesting. So my boys are obviously having quite a bit more screen time than they would normally have during this lockdown period. And what I started noticing was that Joey, whenever he would sit down and watch for a while, he'd be like, "Mom, I'm hungry. Mom, give me something to eat. Mom, I want something to eat. Please, can I have something to eat?" And I would just make him a snack, and I'd make him another snack, and then I was like, oh gosh, he's going to turn into a bit of a couch potato, like just sitting watching TV eating. So I said, okay, cool, I'll make you a plate of food, but turn the TV off and come and eat. And then what I noticed was, so he'd be moaning that he was starving, and I would make him a plate of food, I would turn the TV off, and he would come and eat, and he wouldn't be hungry anymore, and he'd be like, no, I'm not hungry. So I had a great think about it, and I thought about what he was craving and whether it was actually hunger that he had or whether he was craving something else. And now I think it goes back to your sensory pathways and your sensory processing. And so the brain's incredible. We're sensory learners, and we need sensory input to know where we are in space and know what our bodies are doing, and that tells our brain, and then we feel regulated and moderated because we know we're safe. It's a survival thing. Anyway, this learning starts very early on, in the last trimester of pregnancy, in fact. The brain is developing, and at that point it's getting sensory feedback from the muscles in the joints, as the baby pushes against the walls of the amniotic sac. In the womb, it gets feedback saying, oh, this is where your arm is, this is where your leg is. We're also getting what we call vestibular, which is our movement and our positioning of our heads, sensory feedback. So remember, the baby's very often inverted as the mother walks. The mother's hips sway, baby sways, so there's that movement. And then we're also getting what we term deep pressure touch. And deep pressure touch is really the amniotic fluid that surrounds us in a confined space. So it's quite like a massage. It's very calming. It gives us feedback from our whole body about where our body is in space. So these are your sort of primary sensory processing systems, and they're your most regulating ones. So if a child has difficulty with sensory processing, we often use these three systems to try and help them with their regulation and their modulation. And then your sort of higher level sensory processing are your things like vision, which only really kick in, not even at birth. I mean, babies take a while before their vision really takes over as a dominant sensory pathway. Your auditory, so your listening, although you've got that there and you can hear the mother's heartbeat and the mother's voice, sounds very muffled. So your more discriminatory auditory processing happens at a later stage. And I was thinking about what you get when you watch TV. So generally you're sitting still, or kind of maybe rolling around a little bit on the couch, but you are getting a whole lot of visual and a whole lot of auditory sensation, which if you were to get that level of visual and auditory sensation in nature, it would definitely be accompanied by either a lot of proprioception or a lot of vestibular, or both. So for example, if you were to see movement at the rate that you're seeing it on the screen, you would really have to be running very fast. So you would have those regulatory pathways. So I think what happens a lot is that when children watch TV, I mean, I think this is why often you walk into a room of children watching TV and half of them are hanging over the side of the couch with their heads upside down. It's because they're looking for that regulatory sensory input as well. So they're looking for the vestibular to just help regulate the visual and the auditory sensation that they're getting. So I think what Joey was doing when he was asking for snacks is he really wanted something to crunch on. He really wanted something to suck on, to really give, especially when we're children, our mouths give us a lot of proprioceptive sensory input. So like from the muscles in our mouths and our tongues, and as we chew our jaw, that gives us a lot of sensory feedback. It's a hangover from when we breastfeed, of course, that's very regulatory, and that all happens around the mouth. So for children, that's quite a big thing. So he really wanted to help regulate himself more than he was hungry. I mean, why do we have popcorn at movies? Because it's so great to have that crunch. So it goes back to that as well. So there are two things to take from this. The one is, so I stopped just feeding Joey because actually he didn't need food, he didn't need calories, he needed regulation. So when he starts asking for snacks, what we generally do is we have a TV break. So we go outside, we jump on the trampoline for 40 seconds, or and if he continues to say he's hungry, then the TV goes off and we try and eat something at the table. And then again, I'll try and give him something crunchy. So Joey loves cucumber, so I give him cucumber sticks he can crunch on, or an apple or something, just to really try and, or maybe biltong that he can really chew on, just to try and up the sensory input. The other thing is to really just think about what your child's watching. And there are all sorts of kiddies programs. Some are awful, some are great, some work for your children, some don't. But just be aware when you choose your program, the rate of sensory input. So if there's like a lot of frenetic action on the TV, a lot of flashing lights, a lot of movement, a lot of sound, then your child will need regulation, and that kind of thing they're only going to be able to watch for shorter periods. And because it captures them so much, a lot of children's TV does use this formula. But just remember that you need to add the regulatory aspect. Otherwise, what you're going to start seeing happening is when the TV goes off, you're going to have a completely dysregulated child, which we certainly have with Joey. Benji's still young enough and he doesn't get captured quite the same way as Joey. So he'll actually get up and walk around and then come back to the TV. So he's able to regulate himself better. But Joey is very captured by that visual and that auditory. So he's not identifying that he needs to stop and go and regulate himself. So we need to do that for him. And then also we need to I really look at what it is that he's watching, and just try and have the slower moving programs. Nature programs are quite good for him. He loves nature, so it works for him. But even, children's programs, the slower moving ones, for a child, specifically a sensory sensitive child, are gonna be the better ones. Anyway, so I hope that sheds some light on your child and what's happening in your house, and just helps you manage that screen time better, and manage the snacking better, which we really needed to do. I'm off to the Transkei for a little while, so I will catch you when I get back in a week. But yeah, lovely to chat.